Hi, I'm Craig. That's my brother Brad, looking extremely pixelated and sexy. And welcome. That's weird of me to say. That's really weird. To Weekdays with Craig and Brad.
Life is hard, but you can't give up. Let's have a conversation. Weekdays, we're gonna make it today. Weekdays with Craig and Brad.
Episode 92. Brad, I'm sorry for that. I apologize. That was
Hey, what a great way to start the show, being called sexy by your brother. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good, everybody.
What the heck is that? What a weird way to start the show, Craig. Hey, episode what? 92?
92. Yep. 92.
We made it?
Yep, we did.
Isn't that what we're supposed to say? Best episode ever. You're tuning in right now. Best episode ever. And before we move on, Craig, April 5th, 1992 for our 92nd episode. This is a good one. What was the number one song in the country?
Ace of Base. All That She Wants Is Another Baby.
No, it wasn't. I'll give you a hint. We talked about it yesterday, and it's one of our favorites.
I don't remember what we talked about yesterday.
Pull it up. Sometimes the snow comes down in June. Sometimes the sun goes round the moon. I see the passion in your eyes. Sometimes it's all a big surprise. Save the Best for Last by Vanessa Williams, one of the greatest early 90s ballads. Right here, number one, followed by Tears in Heaven, Eric Clapton. Remember the Time by Michael Jackson.
Wow.
Yeah. Masterpiece by Atlantic Starr, and To Be With You, Mr. Big.
And I'm Too Sexy from Right Said Fred. Nice.
And I'm Too Sexy. What a great thing we have going on here. Somebody needs to start making playlists of these daily old Billboard charts.
It should be you. I was just saying, that's great.
It should be me. I don't know how I'd make money doing that, but
I actually,
be a good use of time.
It's funny. On my Twitch channel, something before I actually started doing what I do now, which is hanging out in the morning with the legends. One of the things I actually thought about doing was kind of doing like a radio DJ type thing, and actually playing music, like old school music on it. But then the DMCA came in, and I wanted to be like an actual DJ. I thought that'd be kind of fun and play old school music and like rock out and jam to it and stuff. Yeah. Then Twitch got all DMCA weird on it, and now if you play anything, you get banned and stuff. So
yeah. Well, we've always got our voices, and we can always do a cappella royalty-free versions. And yeah, I did have a friend too that wanted to sort of revive MTV, but do it online, and it's just straight up live music videos. You got to tune in if you want to hear it, and it just is. But I don't know where that ended up. But those were good times.
There's a lot of good things that end up on the drawing room floor, Brad. I'll tell you what, tonight's going to be a very abbreviated show, but it's going to be a good one. Quite possibly, Brad, our best one. Episode 92. Before we get into any of that stuff, I need to let you know that it's time for the YouTube comment of the day. I'll tell you this right now. This one comes from Gun Song, who commented on this standalone video. It says, we may not agree, but that's okay. This is a standalone video we did a couple weeks ago. And it was taken from one of our things, one of our podcasts. And Gun Song said, and I quote, once you sit down and actually talk to people, you often find out that you have much more in common than you think. And people who think differently are usually good people who you just happen to just disagree with. That's right. Sorry, Gunsong. I was trying to be dramatic there. It didn't work out. Gunsong, congratulations. You get the YouTube comment of the day.
How many points, Craig?
47. Congratulations, Gunsong. I love that. That was actually a really, really, really good thing. And if you just sit down and talk, chances are you got a good opportunity to chat about things, and you realize that, as Charles Barkley said, most people are good people. You know,
Yeah.
there's just some shitheads out there.
Well, the thing about conversation is you can go forever talking about one tiny little the things that when you're on Twitter, you're just shooting jabs and throwing quick punches, and then you can sit there and focus on these words. But the conversation is an art and it flows, and you would never even get to start with music, start with movies. You'll never get to the politics, and you'll never have to worry about it.
Say this, by the way, our open invite yesterday that was put out to several of the haters, by the way, I did actually receive an email from somebody who wants to be on the show. So Patrick, I'll be reaching back out to you. I want to let you know I have not responded yet. Unfortunately, White Shadow declined in the comments. Just straight up said no. So I don't want to be a part of your nonsense. And I said, well, once again, who's being a part of the problem? Who's being a part of the solution here, friends?
It's very interesting that they don't want to be a part of the nonsense, but will still comment on our nonsense to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay.
Moosh, thank you so much for resubbing tier 1 for 10 months from Moosh. Greatly appreciate you, Moosh. So look, we got a lot to go on tonight. We're going to be talking about some sports. We're going to be talking about some other stuff, and we're also going to have Harold on, which if you remember last time Harold was in, we had a really great conversation. RW Halt in the chat. Harold, great guy, very level-headed, and actually allows for a good conversation to happen, which is great. So dare we bring in Harold now? We should. Hello, friend.
Hey, guys.
The band is back together.
That's right. Nothing can stop us now.
That's right.
That's right.
So tonight
that's our hit. That's our hit song, by the way.
Before we get into this, Harold, I know you said that you had a surprise for everybody. Did you want to debut that surprise again?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh,
this is my second appearance. So next for that review too, The Reckoning.
Oh man,
this time it's personal.
Nice.
Oh no, I'm
no.
scared now. That's fantastic.
The darker thing, the sequel has to be darker. It always has to be darker.
Yeah. Well, I will start a debate with you right now. Let's talk about Ninja Turtles 1 versus Ninja Turtles 2.
Is this really even a debate topic? I mean,
No,
Ninja Turtles 3, Ninja Turtles 3 all the way.
At that point, we had to remove Harold for his bogus comments.
See you later.
Sorry about that. I just can't deal with that nonsense. Usually, a conversation is a great thing. Harold, take it back right now.
Ninja Turtles.
Say it. Think about what you're gonna say.
You better say the right thing, Harold.
You better say it.
Ninja Turtles 1.
Okay, you can stay. You can stay.
We will cancel you so fast if you go with 3.
Out the door.
As a kid, that one was my favorite, though. I'm sorry.
Number 3 was really?
I made a mistake. What can I say?
It's all right.
That's all right. Look, we all make mistakes. We all say stupid things and do stupid things when we're younger. And the point is that you should be canceled for them now.
Of course.
Sorry, Harold.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, so big news today, gentlemen. As we get right into it, it was a big day in the sports world. As for the first time since Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz put his disgusting, grubby little hands all over microphones and caused the NBA to close down because he got COVID, which ultimately sent the world into an insane tailspin. Today, the Texas Rangers, over 1 year later, the first professional sports team to have a full stadium, which was crazy.
Look at that.
It was pretty nuts. So the Rangers, who, by the way, most people don't care about the Rangers. To be fair, most people in Texas don't care about the Rangers. But this is a very noteworthy story because our governor opened up he took off the mask mandate, and the Rangers said, "Look, hey, we're going to have a full ballpark this year if we want to do it." And what was interesting was prior to this, the Rangers actually had 2 preseason games at their ballpark and said, "Come on, full house if you want to do it." And they all only saw 10,000 and 13,000 fans. But today they saw 38,000 plus, which they considered a sellout. So, I think it sold 40,000, and they may have had 38,000 actually there. And you know,
Yeah.
generally there's 1,000 or so that just don't show up. So they sold the tickets. It was a sellout, and it's really honestly kind of bizarre. Brad, you were saying it's really bizarre seeing a full stadium.
Look, I'm one of the people. I don't care about sports in general very much. I don't care much about the Rangers. I do enjoy going to a baseball game once every couple years or so just to get the experience. But this guy Clay Travis on Twitter had posted. He was at the game here. If you want to pull up my screen, and he posted this video of the crowd, and I was just kind of skimming through Twitter, and I saw this, and I did a double take. I was like, hold up, is that today? I was like, that looks like so 2019 to me.
Right.
And it really it was like, whoa, look at all those people. So yeah, it threw me off. It's weird to see something like that. But honestly, I think that I'm fine with it.
By the way, the ballpark looks really nice. This is the first time they've opened it up. So, people are obviously, it was really interesting looking on social media today as I was doing prep work for this. By the way, I'd like to point out this over here in the background, that was their stadium last year. So they just moved right across the way.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, their stadium's still there. How stupid.
Wow.
So
that's
anyways.
Crazy. I took mom and dad and Kelly to see Paul McCartney there a few years ago. I'm glad I did, because it might be the last concert I ever go to. But I thought that they were going to wreck it down or something. And I was thinking about how in America, if you go to Rome, they've got all the great buildings and these classic pieces of architecture, and we just tear them down. We don't care about the history there. We just look, it's got to be bigger and better and move on. Well, and we'll put it right across the street from the old one too.
The amazing thing about this was they wanted to have a stadium with a roof, right? So they're like, well, we're going to make a new stadium then. And on opening day, what do they have? A stadium with no roof on it. So, it's just kind of funny because it's a nice day.
That's probably a COVID precaution.
Yeah.
Open air.
I'm sure there's something to that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
outdoor now.
But it was very interesting to see on social media people responding to this, and specifically people from Canada who were like, I can't believe it. I can't believe this is happening. And I hope the Blue Jays, who they're playing, the Toronto Blue Jays, stay safe. I hope they stay safe there. Yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, we talked about the COVID numbers yesterday. We talked about the COVID numbers today. Actually, today in the entire state of Texas. Now, given it's a holiday weekend, probably reporting is down, but for the entire state, just over 1,000 cases for the entire state of Texas, which is insane considering we're in the middle of a global pandemic.
Hey, but Craig, are you sure that they meant stay safe? When it came to COVID, instead of just the fact that they're in the middle of rough and tumble, the states.
Stay safe in Texas.
Listen,
our gunslinging stereotypes, Harold. Is that what you're trying to say?
Whoa, I'm asking. Maybe that's. I mean, who knows? We ought to cancel Canada. No.
Well, as Hal says, he says that was mostly Central Canada. A bunch of worry words right there.
Canada's got it pretty hard right now. I just saw a video of a guy who was getting a ticket for not wearing a mask while he was across the street, and the police approached him, and he's like, look, I'm not near anybody. I have a mask. I'll wear it when I'm close to people. He was a cameraman for a news outlet, and he was like, he's sticking up for himself. He's like, look, I've already got 6 tickets for this. You can give me another one. I'll comply with you. We'll go do this. I've got lawsuits fighting all of them. But that's how hard they're going with it in Canada. If they see you without it, it doesn't matter if you're far away, social distancing, they will come and they will give you a ticket. And I think the ticket's like $1,200 or something.
Well, and again, Brad, it is Canada, so, I mean, the crimes that they're dealing with are, conspiracy to jaywalk, organized littering, just kind of some dangerous stuff up there. So can't let anything slide. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you just a quick. I mean, while we're touching on Canada real fast, Canada for the entire country currently is seeing they've seen just under just over 5,000 cases, right? And they are seeing a little uptick right here, which is kind of similar to what you're seeing in Michigan, which is on the Canadian border. Now I'll be interested to see what we see for deaths here. Oh, okay, they're still going down. But so they had 12 deaths on the 4th, which
this is kind of embarrassing. Let's close that screen.
Okay. Just want to be clear. By the way, you should get a ticket for not wearing your mask. So
yeah.
Anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what happens once again in 2 weeks when we look at the COVID tracker and people who are freaking out of everything. Brad, your thought was once again, if in 2 weeks from now and 3 weeks from now, if nothing changes, will that change people's perception of this?
Yeah, we've been doing this for like a year now. Like every get together is the big COVID bomb drop that's going to ruin the entire world. And Texas is open now. We're 3 weeks into our open. People are at a baseball game. It looks like 2 years ago. In some places, I've noticed at Walmart, more and more people. I went to the store the other day, and more people showing up without a mask. And if they are, a lot of them are pulling it down again. It's kind of early 2020 vibes a little bit. It's not quite there, but it's there. But yeah, I'm just fascinated by the idea that no matter, if the bomb doesn't really drop and bodies start falling, are you going to consider that at all for anything in your perspective of how dangerous everything is, everything that's happened over the last year? What will you attribute that to? Will it be everybody's getting the vaccine, so is that the route you're going to go down, or are you going to go, well, geez, like, is the vaccine even helping? Did the masks ever help? Will it make you second guess anything if 38,000 people can gather in one congested place? They didn't just they're not sitting socially distanced, right? At the Texas, and they have to, get through the crowds to sit down and get their. Am I fuzzy?
Yeah, it's okay. You're all right.
Okay. My internet's
Harold
not
looks good.
through.
I look good. You look like it looks like a digital poop Oreo sandwich.
But you get the point. There's a lot of people gathered today. We can start another benchmark here. Two weeks from now, gosh, everybody that was there is going to die.
Travis, I'm sorry, real quick. Travis in the chat said, he said, did you see what the CDC lady said? And no, I did not. So Travis, if you have an opportunity, send it to me via Discord, please. I'll pull that up because I have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you. Go ahead, Harold. I'm sorry.
And I just kind of to offer a little bit of a counterweight there, Brad. I wonder, I was looking at those numbers today, and you see us, kind of going up and then starting to level off and, relaxing and then going up again. And, and especially like right around Halloween and then Thanksgiving and then Christmas, as a country, you can, look at that and see 2 to 3 weeks later, those big spikes climb in cases and in deaths. And to me, I kind of feel like, we just exactly like you're saying, it's like, okay, will people look at the evidence if in, 2 to 3 weeks things are good or are still continuing to decrease? Will you reconsider your stance on that? I think that's a fair question to ask.
Right.
For both sides, though.
Exactly. Ty's asking that. Brad, will you change your perspective if there's deaths from the game?
And I hate to say, I hope that I really hope that Brad doesn't have the opportunity to change his mind. What I'm hoping we get to is 3 weeks from now, kind of bowing down, saying, "Hey, look, there wasn't any risk. Fantastic. What do you know? Actually, deaths and cases dropped off a cliff. It stopped in its tracks. That would be phenomenal." But we have had these incidences, unfortunately. I had never looked at Canada's numbers. Craig, you made me sick to my stomach looking at that. Why isn't that our country? Oh man.
What you mean it made you sick to your stomach by how low it is, or by I mean, you got to remember, country, just like they say about voting, you know, like they say land doesn't vote, right?
Yeah,
And Canada is just a bunch of land up there, and
a lot of spread out. Yeah,
right. So I'll tell you,
definitely,
let me pull this up real fast. This is from Travis. He just sent this over, and I'm intrigued by this. It says, in the hygiene theater, CDC says it's time to unplug the sanitizing robots and put away the bottles of Clorox that seem to line. By the way, obviously from Yahoo, line the interests of every school, restaurant, supermarket, waiting to advertise its safety protocols. While such protocols may be reassuring to an anxious populace, they are not necessary, says a revised guidance issued on Monday by the CDC. It is possible for people to be infected through contact with contaminated surfaces or objects, but the risk is generally considered to be low. The new CDC guidance says, estimated that the chance of contracting the coronavirus through surface transmission is lower than 1 in 10,000. Wow, that's crazy.
So I thought that'd come out months ago.
I mean, this is today from the CDC. This came out today. It says the coronavirus is spread almost exclusively by airborne and aerosolized particles, which scientists have known for months. Despite scientists' growing certitude about how the pathogen is transmitted, many establishments have continued to insist on strict sanitation protocols. In some school districts, for example, classrooms close to full day for full day deep cleaning. Okay, so I get this, and I understand what they're going for here. So that's actually crazy to hear and crazy to see, because when you go into a grocery store here and you see the shield in front of you that separates you and the cashier, and it just is like this tiny little plastic that might as well be a piece of paper. It's paper, it's a 1/4 inch thick or whatever, but it's 18 inches wide, and most of the time when they speak, you end up reaching or looking around it because you can't hear them or whatever. It's like, do you feel safe behind your cage there, guy, or your little piece of plastic? And it's really kind of asinine. And it's crazy to see that the CDC's like, yeah, how about we just stop all this stupid, in their words, theater and move past this?
If I can say too, I mean, capitalism. We've talked on the show a little bit, before about the performative, type of thing. When it comes to either wokeness or allyship, that a lot of it's just a marketing tactic. You guys have kind of talked on the show about like, well, how ridiculous is it that I need to wear my mask into the restaurant, go sit down, take it off for the meal, and as I get up to go get a Coke, it's like, what, okay. And to me, I kind of think, well, but we're talking about, making the best of a scenario that potentially, especially earlier in the pandemic, we shouldn't have been putting ourselves in. I can order my KFC through the drive-through and take it, back to my park bench, to eat it.
Right.
Instead of, but yeah, we want to get life back to normal, especially for companies and for businesses. They still want my money just as desperately as they always have. And so I kind of feel like, yeah, a lot of this is performance art in order to make people feel safe to coming back to what isn't any safer of an environment than it actually, would be in a pandemic. You probably should have stayed home. That's the best option.
You were talking about the cases in Canada compared to the United States, and you're like, it's kind of embarrassing to see Canada so low.
It was the deaths that I was, when you switched over to that, I was like,
okay. So real quick, I just want to point this out. This was pointed out in the chat here a second ago about the actual population of the United States versus Canada. Long and short of it is, in Canada, they have about 38 million people who live in Canada. In the United States, about 330 million. So there's actually
10 times less people, but much less than 10 times the deaths.
It's actually 7.89 times, right? So what actually, I went into and took a look at the cases, by the way, of Canada real quick. And Canada, I just took the average of 7-day average of 5,691, and I multiplied that out. that would that averaged to about 45,000 cases if you were to scale it up to the United States, which, you know, in the United States we're seeing you know, pretty, I mean, it's obviously the United States is a little bit higher, but we are seeing, you know, somewhat comparable numbers to that. So about 20,000 difference. Obviously from the deaths perspective, yeah, obviously it's considerably higher in the United States. But I do think that why do you think it's higher?
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
it sucks.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because Americans are fat.
Well, that's
How
it.
dare you,
sir.
Brad?
I mean, I don't think I'm breaking any news. Like, I don't think that I'm breaking any news that
We don't look ourselves in the mirror in this country.
Take
Brad.
umbrage at the insinuation, sir.
I mean, it's not an it's not an insinuation. It is a fact. Like the United States, the Americans citizens are considerably fatter than the rest of the world because of the food we eat, because our eating habits, because the American diet, which we've talked about in the past. Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand. Yeah, absolutely. It seems like a very common, especially when you look at the number of COVID deaths and the amount of people that have died from COVID, how they have these extra comorbidities. And one of the main comorbidities is either obesity, diabetes, and when you just go down the list, chances are there's a lot of Americans who have those things, and a lot of the crazy Canucks up there may not necessarily, you know, with their free health care and their diets and their hockey skating and all that stuff, you know, they may not be nearly as overweight. Now, listen, I've seen some fat Canadians, to be clear. I've seen some very fat Canadians. But
you burn a lot of calories keeping warm in the cold up there, you know.
I guess. Yeah. There you go. Look at that. See, as Hal says, Canada is 24.3% obese compared to the US 32.6% obese. And for the record, I am considered obese in the United States.
Same here. Same here.
Which is, you know, so just want to point that out. But you know, there's a certain point where you're obese, and then there's obese. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm just saying there's. I don't think I'm breaking any news here. And if I am, and if somebody objects to that, look at the numbers, look at the facts. I'm not here to break any news here. Jake came in resubbing tier 1 for 6 months. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate that.
Hey, Craig, as you're saying that, a little bit off topic for the Legends, this is my second time on the show, and I just want to point out that the comments, you know, YouTube, Twitter, you know, are compiled over at the side of the screen. It is hard to keep up with that stuff as I, you know, look at it. So Craig and Brad do a phenomenal job trying to keep an eye on the chat, but I'm telling you, it's an impossibility. So don't feel like sometimes I'm down there like, well, how come they haven't said anything about, you know, this person that said that? Dude, it is super easy to miss. It scrolls by quick. So
we had a couple chats going at the same time for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But yes, Ringman says, but on the other hand, how many 24-hour gyms do you see in the United States? There's quite a few, but how many people have those gym memberships and never use them? Once again, it's just a different. Yeah, right, exactly.
You know, they should offer free Krispy Kreme donuts with your gym membership. is probably a good selling point. A year of free Krispy Kreme donuts if you sign up for the gym. No, I'm curious how the God, we talked about so much in the last few minutes, and I had a couple things I wanted to talk about. You were talking about at the grocery store and the plastic stuff. And I remember the first time I was at a Costco at the beginning of all this last year, and they had just put them up. And I was like, what? No, this is getting out of hand. And then I'm like, I'm putting all my stuff, I'm touching all my stuff, putting it on the belt. Then they touched all my stuff and scanned it and then put it down. And then the guy put it in the boxes. And I was like, what was the point of that? But not just what's the point of it, but how much plastic did we use over the last year that is going to pollute our country? Not just the plastic shields, but the masks. I wanted to share this with you. This was a park I went to. I took these pictures myself. I took the kids. This was a park that had 9 masks all throughout it, just sprawled after school one day. And some of these are not disposable masks. You know, people are like, well, I don't wear the disposable. I use the reusable ones. But I'm like, this was like really sad to me. My kids were walking around. They're like, there's another one over here, like an Easter egg hunt. And there's 1.5 billion of these things floating in the ocean right now. And we have our work cut out for us between all the plastic that we've used in shields, all of the little cloth and microfiber sheets that we're leaving on the ground everywhere. We never got sanitization disposal bins put on the corner of, our street corners. I that had always fascinated me, because I was always like, well, if we're supposed to get rid of these, if we're supposed to, wear these things all the time, where's our safety bins? Isn't this a biohazard? My kids today, we were walking and they saw one on the ground. They go, how are we supposed to throw this away, Daddy? And I just picked it up and threw it away. So I might have COVID now, but my point still stands. There's a lot of things, going on behind the scenes that we have not even considered, in the name of safety, mind you.
But it's honestly, it's really refreshing. Travis, thank you so much for sending that over. It's refreshing to see, I mean, the CDC of all things, who the CDC has been the governing body that everybody's looked to the last, 14 months or so, and said, what do they have to say? And now they're saying, hey, cut it out. That's legitimately kind of refreshing. So, all right, let's move on.
It is, while at the same time, Dr. Fauci, I think today, had said something along the lines of, we'll never get back to handshaking. So we'll remove the mask, but we'll stop our physical touching. So,
but at the same day, hold on, just at the same day,
we will.
On the exact same time, the CDC says in the hygiene theater, like at the exact same day, said that.
Look,
talk about
here,
mixed messaging.
Here, you can pull up my screen. The pandemic forced us to stop hugging and shaking hands. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And this was a USA Today article. It was paired.
I was going to say, was that written by? Oh, sorry, I was thinking the opposite of Andrew Cuomo. He needs to read this article, but the rest of us, no, we can get back to.
Right.
Yeah, no. If you read this article, they have down here alternatives to the handshake. Now, you talk about theatrics.
Okay,
we can do a hand wave.
For the love of God, I swear. Okay, I'm just looking ahead. For the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody offers me a foot shake, I will punch them in the fucking coccyx. Like I don't have time for that. That's ridiculous.
That was my joke today. I said, you put your right foot in, you take your right foot out, you put your right foot in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey because you're scared of killing somebody with a handshake. That's what it's all about. And then I thought, if you do the foot shake, then it comes down to, well, you take your shoes home and you put your hands on the shoes, and where have your shoes been all day? And it's just a big germy mess. And, you can get down into any one of these things. People from using the head bow too much have now having pain in their neck, all these silly things. It's never going to stop. Which one would you choose, Harold?
So I'm an elbow bump guy. Okay. Man, let's bump elbows there.
Yeah. The next best thing to a handshake.
I just want to point out, Harold, that if you saw yourself giving another person an elbow bump a year ago, you also would have punched yourself in the fucking coccyx.
In the what, Craig?
The coccyx.
Coccyx. Yeah. Okay. I was.
Look it up. It's a real thing.
Okay. Is that like a heart cockle?
No.
Warms the cockles of a.
You just. I'm just telling. If you would have seen that, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
See, look, and Dindin says, as an Asian American, if someone did a head bow or a namaste, I would think they were mocking me.
Hey,
right. Yeah, absolutely. Then you've got cultural appropriation stepping in some of these, for sure. And we can't win. You just can't win.
I seriously, I'm not kidding when I say this. I'm not kidding when I say this. I'm legitimately. We should go out, Brad, and film a video of introducing ourselves to people and only doing the hokey pokey to introduce them. Like that's just
put your elbow in.
You do the dance as you turn around. Hey, I'm Craig. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
So real quick, since we brought up Dr. Fauci, you guys had the pillow on the other week, and I thought, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the thing on the back was, it is what it is. Was that actually a Fauci quote, or was that a President Trump quote? I thought it was a President Trump quote.
Why would they put that on the back of a Dr. Fauci pillow?
Because President Trump, when asked about the COVID deaths, he was doing an interview on a news channel. He was asked about that, and his response was, "Look, it is what it is."
Okay.
So I think that was what the back of that pillow.
It is what it is. Anthony Fauci deploys Scorsese quote to deflect questions over Trump's culpabilities. So.
Yeah, he was that's kind of, I think, where that's coming from is they're kind of saying that, when people were trying to, back in Trump's presidency, were trying to corner Fauci on, hey, your boss said, then, Fauci is kind of like,
it is what it is.
I'll just say exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Like,
by the way, Brad,
pretty dark.
Do we have an update on our potential pillow guest?
I've reached out to him. So I shared the clip of us talking about the pillow on Twitter, and the creator, the guy that thought of the pillow himself, retweeted it, the clip, and he was like, "Well, if you wanted to know more, you could have reached out to me." So I've invited him on the show. I've sent him a direct message. I said, "Let us know. We'll set you up. We'll get you going. Just let me know anytime." I have not heard back yet. Maybe perhaps he watched the rest of the episode. I don't know. But that would be great. We're all for it. Just because I think your pillow's stupid doesn't mean I don't want to have you on the show and talk about it.
That's right.
It's a great way to get guests on, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd say
Craig, 8 minutes. We're running out of time.
We got to get bumping. We got to get bumping here. Yep. Let's touch quickly on what we talked about yesterday, because Harold and I had a good conversation last night about the situation in Georgia and the new voting law. And I know that voting law in in Georgia really gets, the pants of the legends going crazy. But it's important to do a quick follow-up on that, because Travis was pretty active talking about, the idea of suppression and the thought of this new law, this new bill that is put in place in Georgia is going to cause suppression, or could potentially cause suppression of general minority votes. And like I said, Harold and I had a good conversation last night, and I wanted to kind of continue that conversation, just real briefly, just quick hit it before we move on. But before I would like to say, before we do that, Travis was mentioning the idea that having to pay for an ID could potentially be seen as suppression, despite the fact that you do need an ID for pretty much anything in the world at this point. People need to know that you exist. In Georgia, if you do not have an ID, they will actually provide you with a free, this is just a quick follow-up, a free voter ID in Georgia if you don't have one. So the IDs are acceptable: a passport, military photo, a tribal photo ID, a driver's license, employee ID from any branch of the government, valid state ID. But if you don't have one of those, you can go to the county registrar's office, and if you just provide a photo identity document, or they will provide you with you just any of this stuff: documentation showing a voter's birth, evidence that the application is a registered voter, documentation showing the applicant's name and residential address. All you need to do is show that could be a bill, perhaps, and they will give you a free voter ID card. So it costs you literally nothing outside of getting to the county's registrar. So just a quick follow-up on that. Okay. Yep. With that said, we'll go. With that said, Harold, you were talking about the idea of this potentially suppressing the vote, and my stance on this was like, there are 17 days of pre-voting available in Georgia. 17 days, and if you were just to do some quick math on that, 17 days, and everything's open for 8 hours, that's going to give you a lot of time to go in. It's 120 hours plus another 24, 144 hours to go in and vote prior to the actual election day for you to go in. And if we're squawking over like 2 hours on the final election day, I mean, at a certain point, don't you just look yourself in the mirror and be like, well, I guess I just didn't really want to vote that bad.
And I want to make sure that, to be clear, starting off on the, foot of Yeah, I think that is a fair assessment to make. However, especially with how razor thin the margins were in Georgia over the past two elections, so 2020 and also in their runoff at the beginning of 2021, but also in 2018. The desire, the drive to go and vote is something that I'll put it this way. I kind of feel like it's like masking. I don't want to do it. It's not something that, it's kind of like going to the post office. It's not something that I'm like, oh, fantastic. I believe it is a civic duty. But the clowns that both parties run are so depressing, in our options. But I do still go and I still vote. And so, in my opinion, any kind of, tipping the scale in order to make it just a little less convenient. Some of those districts in Georgia, you said, they've got 8 hours, in a day that they're open. There were people in line voting in Georgia's elections in 2018 and 2020 that were in line for upwards of 10 to 11 hours. Now, it's a huge problem. What's that?
Day of election day?
No. Even in the first days. So the first day that early voting opened. And, you can say, okay, well, yeah, they probably had some kinks to work out. These weren't people who were, just waiting till the last minute and, kind of like putting the taxes in on the 15th, or whatever else. That sort of a thing, if you get there and you've only got an hour on lunch break and the job hasn't been done yet, you still have a ridiculously long line to go, then you go back to work. You do not cast your ballot. And, there were especially, certain, counties like Fulton that really, really, really didn't have their act together. And that's where we saw the longest lines. And so in order to have kind of shorter voting hours, in order to have, what SB 202, says is, okay, well, if you come outside of this, kind of 2-hour window to one of a legal polling place that isn't the one that you're registered to, well, then you can't cast a vote there except for within this, kind of 2-hour sliver. And in such a, and the reason for that, because I voted before out here in Utah, which I think it was kind of funny talking about the NBA. We started the problem with licking the microphones. Texas just ended it, by having a full stadium. But in Utah, my district to vote at was at the movie theater, a few blocks away. I get there and I'm, with several people getting out. It's like, this is an empty parking lot, except for a few vehicles. And it's all of us walking up to the theater and saying, oh, this, center is closed. Here, go, someplace else. And so I'm jumping in my car now, looking on my phone, looking up, okay, where is my district? I'd had this planned out. That happens so many places. And when you're limiting the polling places, when you're limiting the drop-off, locations for an already filled out ballot, it's making more hurdles to jump over in order to vote legally. This is something like, I compare it to digital distribution rights. When I'm trying to play a game or I'm trying to watch something on my Apple TV and it's, gives the warning, it's like, oh, looks like your HDMI cable isn't, properly, isn't part of the, ecosystem. And I'm like, this sucks. I'm having to reset my Apple TV and boom, it works. I'm still able to watch my program. So it's not, stopping votes, but it's an extra step that at least in my mind, I'm like, doggone it. If I had pirated this game, if I had pirated The Mandalorian, then I would have an easier time, but instead, it is a hurdle. It is a barrier to legally taking part in my civic duty. And I think even though the bill says, hey, we are trying to make this, we're trying to restore confidence in our elections, here in Georgia, it does have the added effect of making the process a bigger pain. Yes, it is that voters, personal duty, their personal responsibility. to shoulder that as part of their civic duty. They have to take some personal responsibility, but we are allowing our elected representatives, 6 people actually, on this particular bill, to make it harder for millions.
Well,
and that's kind of crazy,
now,
You'd
just
say
to be
you
clear,
millions have to do that.
look, let's just be clear. If we're looking for a group of people that a small group of people that are making it difficult for the majority of people, we have that every day on Twitter.
100%, and none of those people should be in government, Craig.
Right.
But unfortunately,
but they all know what's best for our government and our country, by the way. So
yeah, keyboard warriors, they
Right.
always do.
Now, what's fascinating though is, as Chancho points out, is once you're in line, you are able to vote. It's part of the law, right? So
Except for they have now made it to where it will that polling place will close if you're in line by 7 o'clock. You can vote, or at least you've got 2 hours to make it to vote, and then they can close the polling location even with people in line. The only thing that keeps it open is an order from that district's judge,
which will happen if it's closed. We know that.
Which can happen, but the ability to say, oh well, that judge just so happened to have gone to bed at 8:30. There's all this type of craziness. Being able to appoint their own superintendents, 3 people being able to vote someone who was dutifully elected out of their office. There's a lot of stuff in this bill. It's 95 pages. It's not just, okay, you got to show up with an ID card.
Of course.
Yeah.
If you look at any sort of government, anything, it's all 95 pages. There's nothing that's ever just a page and a half.
They can't do anything short. Yeah.
Right. But it's fascinating to see. Do you feel that that Major League Baseball is justified for pulling out the All-Star game for this?
Look, again, I feel it's performative, and I keep on saying that. We talked about what were we talking about before the show? We talked a little bit about businesses and kind of how a lot of this is marketing. And so to me, this is them being able to say, hey, care about baseball again. How about you just talk about us? Fewer and fewer people are watching us. So
I'll tell you this. I think it's fascinating because fascinating is the word. With the Braves in general, the Braves of Atlanta were like, we didn't have anything to do with this. This is all Major League Baseball. As a matter of fact, we're going to lose the city of Atlanta with this very diverse city that has, black food, restaurants, black-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses all around the stadium. They're the ones missing out on this because of the millions and millions of dollars that will not come in because, from people coming in to be a part of this. And that's the saddest thing of it all. They're making these moves, these statements based in they're bending the knee, which is it's crazy to think. But I think that they've received so much blowback over the last couple days. It goes back to the idea that the people who are complaining are not baseball fans. They're just complaining.
They weren't going to watch anyway. They weren't going to get the game.
So now the baseball fans are like, hey, what the hell? And I know this is going to sound crazy, but I could absolutely see a situation where baseball looks at this and they go, oh, shit. Maybe we should just, call a mulligan on this and be, I think the likelihood on that is very small, but I could see a situation where they're like, look, okay, this is our stance, but given the circumstances of this is where we're going to be, and, they'd be like, oh, or bad, So,
and it's in my opinion, it is most tragic that so much of this is performative, because my wife was pointing out okay, the outlawing the food and that sort of thing. In some instances, people are coming up and giving food, but now it actually makes it a misdemeanor. If your Mima has been in line for 5 hours and her blood sugar is low, you can't bring her something. You have to.
But that's not to say she couldn't.
She can leave the line. She can leave the line if she wasn't planning on being there for half of the day. You know, like I said,
and she
10
goes,
11 hours.
bring whatever she needs, you know, like,
And unfortunately, that is, in my opinion, while that I totally get that, we can demand better from our elected officials. We can say that's not acceptable to just say, well, you should have planned on camping out.
well, but should we just have just wide open concession stands and insulin stations and, you know, things like this for everybody who's going to vote? Because then all of a sudden that's passing the buck on these people's responsibility onto the taxpayer, who the taxpayer is paying for these things. And
I'll settle for a voting system that allows me to, you know, be in and out with a vote, you know, for in about the time that I'd expect to be in line at the post office.
Or, you know, in the first 17 days you had to vote. I mean,
well, again, that was right at the very beginning. Yeah.
Which, by the way, is over half a month. You have, I mean, if you really sit down 17 days from now, which, by the way, 17 days, like that's business days. 17 business days to go in and get this thing voted on, right?
Mm-hmm. And relog 98.
Oh yeah,
it's always been the law that you need to be in line before a certain time. You are correct, sir. But if you were in line before that certain time, and you know what happened in Georgia is they had their last person vote, you know, at 12:34 or something like that, a.m. You know, it's like that's crazy. Now they're cutting it off at 9. Again, that would be great if they were efficient enough to get people in and out in under an hour. You know, that's reasonable for voting. There you go. Chancho says, correction, you can bring your Mi'kmaq food. So can a poll worker. A campaign rep cannot bring her food. The saying you can't bring it is a lie, right? So, well, you know, okay. That's the big thing. Yeah. That's the big thing is like when people say you can't, you know, you heard Biden say, you can't bring them water. Well, how American is that? Like, well, yeah, you can. Just the guy who's running for office can't bring you water, you know? But, well, and by the way, that's always been outlawed too. You can't campaign within 150 feet of the, you know, line or the polling place anyway. So the idea that someone's handing out water and saying, well, you only get this if you vote for this candidate, that's been illegal. If that is something that has been being done, then, you know, there were already laws in place. But that, so. It was done just a few months ago when they said, if you vote for this person, we'll give you $2,000. Not quite. It was if this person wins. I thought it was. You know? Okay, big difference.
Big difference. And in fairness, it wasn't $2,000 either.
Yeah, well, that's a good place to put a pin in it tonight. Yeah. All right, it's a good conversation, Harold. I appreciate you coming on tonight, man. My pleasure. For sure. If I can get some crowns in the chat for Harold for popping in tonight. Brad, you got anything else before we wrap up today?
I had so much to say, but now I don't have time to say it.
Oh, well,
I was letting you guys chat it up.
Sorry. Well, maybe we continue the conversation tomorrow because I got to be honest. I got to root Baylor on. There's 16 minutes to go in the game. I got to watch it. I'm sorry. I got to do it. I got to watch college basketball. Hey, let's talk about what Brad would have said in the comment section while we visit the algorithm.
What was I about to say?
I'm Al Gore, the voice of your generation. Young people today, let me ask you this. How can we party? The earth is so big. Can we party? I'm Al Gore, the voice of your generation. Party.
Harold, thanks for showing up, buddy. Appreciate
it. Real quick, sorry. I had to look it up. It is in SB 202, Section 33. So that's page 71. And it says, nor shall any person give, offer to give, or participate in the giving of any money or gifts, including but not limited to food and drink, to an elector. I know it starts off with no person shall solicit votes in any manner, you know, means or whatever else. But the question was, where are those commas placed? And if it has or, well, then you don't need to be, you know, someone working for campaign for that campaign. That was a lot of the concern of like, Well, technically, the law does say, or, doing this. But go Baylor. They beat my Hogs. I think they got it.
All right. Brad, you got anything?
I will not be watching football. I mean,
It's
basketball.
basketball. All right, guys, see you later. Have a good
I
night.
don't know what's happening in the sport land.
Bye-bye.